let's talk about 2020 because we all hear the term 2020, okay? And that's a starting point, okay? So let's talk about the myth of 2020. You've all seen this type of chart. Most vision problems go undetected because people think 2020 equals perfect vision, okay? So what 2020 means is you're looking at the eye chart from a distance of 20 feet. So Allison, I'm going to ask you to stand up for me, please. Allison, I measured this out, Allison's about 20 feet. So those of you who are behind her, what's your name in the corner?
Katie.
Katie. I want you to stand up. Okay, so you can either watch Allison's eyes or Katie's eyes. Okay? So Katie's a little bit further. Allison's at 20 feet. So you should be able to see a certain size from that distance. That's what the top 20 means. You can see the size of the letter you should see from 20 feet. Okay? So one of the things I want you to think about as we do these illustrations, is there a difference between reading the eye chart versus reading the paragraph of print? Okay? In particular, I want you to notice how much do your eyes move? Okay? Where do your eyes point or aim? And how much stuff is there for you to look at? Okay? So Allison, what I want you to do is I want you to read this middle line. And while you're reading it, I want everyone to look at her eyes. Okay? And watch how her eyes are moving. And if it's too far, then the twins on this side, okay, I want you guys to read this as well. And this side twins, I want you to watch that twin's eyes as they're reading. Go ahead.
You stand up and read so I can see it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
FELOPZ.
What did you notice?
That I could actually do that.
What did you notice, Vicki? Okay. How much?
Slightly.
Slightly. Good. Okay. You can sit down. Okay. So that test is a measure of how we see off at a distance. But what happens at near, where we do most of our learning? And typically when you go to the eye doctor or to the school nurse or the pediatrician, when child goes, what do? They cover one eye and say read these letters, and they cover the other eye and read these letters. So it's usually a test that's done one eye at a time. You want to sit down?
Okay. I have to read the paragraph. Exactly. That's the beginning.
Folder that says this title, please read this paragraph. Read the top paragraph to yourself while your buddy watches your eyes as you're reading it. So watch her eyes as she's reading it.
What's the top grade?
I don't have a partner either, so
Okay, now I want you to switch and have the other person read it.
It's funny. I've done this with kids. You don't see your eye.
What did you notice as you read that? What did you notice?
like I could tell when she went to like the next one.
Good. Anything else?
Or back within that line.
As the person reading it, because I was like paying attention to myself, I realized that sometimes I move to the next line before I'm done with the first one, with the one before. Like I carry that with me as I go to the next one to kind of like make it fluent, I guess.
Good. Anyone else? Good. So your eyes had to move from left to right, from top to bottom. Okay? As the eyes move, the print had to stay clear and single. Okay? When you reach the end of one line, you have to swiftly and precisely move to the beginning of the next line. What would happen if instead of reading line 2, you start reading line 3? What's going to happen?
Comprehension.
You're going to be missing a lot of details. What's going to happen if instead of reading line 2, I start reading line 1 again? It's going to sound awfully familiar, and now it's going to cost me time to read the second one. So when you're looking at the eye charts, how much does your eyes move? Vicki, how much do your eyes move? Relatively little. How about when you're reading a paragraph?
Quite a bit.
Quite a bit, okay? Where do they point? When you're reading off at a distance, like the chart, the Snellen chart, okay, they're pointing pretty straight, right? But when we're reading a paragraph, we have to point our eyes in. The term for that is called convergence. We have to converge our eyes. How much stuff was there when you're reading the line? Not too much, okay? But when you're reading a paragraph, there's a lot of stuff. So let's talk about the differences. From the big E chart, there was little movement. There were all capital letters. There were symbols. We call those letters, okay? There's only one line to read. There are even spacing between letters. It only took a couple seconds. And typically that's done one eye at a time, and that's off at a distance. But when you're reading a paragraph of print, there's a lot of movement. You've got capitals and lowercase and punctuation. And these are not letters, these are concepts. And you have to read lots of lines. And the words are of different lengths, so they're unevenly spaced. Okay, so you can have a small word like of or gum or and then you can have a word like however or house. So you have to move your eyes unevenly. It's considerably longer. You're asking a person to be there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour. And when you read, we use our two eyes together. So when they're doing the school screening, or the screening at the pediatrician, that really doesn't tell us a lot about how somebody functions for up close. So the question here is this test sufficient to determine if somebody has all of the visual skills for reading? What does that test tell us about our side vision, our peripheral vision? Nothing. Okay? How about depth perception? Kind of like when you're parking a car or when you're shooting a basket. What does it tell us about color vision? Or eye health? Okay? What does it tell us about the ability to use the two eyes together as a team? It doesn't. The eye chart is a measure of how small we see, how little we see, rather than how much we see. And all it means is that you can see these small little letters from a distance of 20 feet. And that's important, just like eye health is important. But the eye chart is testing our central, our fine detail system. And it's a good screener for certain refractive errors, like somebody who's nearsighted. What does nearsighted mean? Okay. Do you have anywhere within that word, nearsighted, a negative definition? No, it's not that you can't see far. Just parse this into two words. Nearsighted means you can see at near. Okay? Somebody who's nearsighted, it's easy to identify the kids that are nearsighted. Why? Because they're the ones that are going to get up out of their seat and go to the board. Okay? So it's relatively easy for a teacher to find if a child is nearsighted. Kids that are nearsighted usually do the best in school. Why is that? That's right. Okay. Conversely, okay, somebody who's farsighted. What is farsighted? They can see fine for far away. So they can read the chart at the pediatrician's office. Okay? But where might they have difficulty? Up close. Because when we're doing things up close, we have to use our focusing mechanism before we use our focusing mechanism. Where does a child do most of their reading and learning? Is it at distance or near? Obviously it's at near. The point is that the 2020 chart doesn't evaluate the other visual skills that are needed for reading and learning. Vision screenings therefore cause confusion because they lead to a false sense of security. I've been to the ophthalmologist, I've been to the pediatrician, and they said, my vision was fine, okay? It's not their vision, but their sight. These are two different words that are often confused. Parents falsely think the child has all of the visual skills for reading and learning because they passed at the pediatrician's office. So the common vision screening with the Snellen eye chart identifies only about 5% of those who have vision problems.